Welcome back to the IT Support Skills Lab. Again, this is a reminder to the people who are watching this video. My main focus of creating this video is for two things. One is for the people who are taking our skills development program and they would be doing this project hands-on. So when I make this video, this is going to help them in the future project that they have to do exactly on the same systems in a real world. So it's a kind of like a bare-bone access where we just give it to them and they create everything themselves by watching documentation and getting tested. Now, if you're following my video, of course you can replicate the same thing in your virtual box and just train yourself by watching this and creating your own environment. You're free to do that. But again, my focus is going to be always like this so people don't get confused. Why am I making this video? So in our last video, we created a domain controller. We connected it to Active Directory. We created a help desk machine, which is this machine. This is you. You are the IT person now. And we have installed RSAT tool, which is Active Directory. Right here, when you do Active Directory, you can open Active Directory. And now we want to practice a little bit of basics in this. Like, when we say Active Directory skills for the help desk, what do we mean by this? So the first thing is that, do you know how to open RSAT or Active Directory users and computers from a normal help desk machine? So a lot of people, this should be a basic thing. If somebody's hiring you, they expect that you know this, because the moment you get hired, after a week or two, you're going to be jumping in an Active Directory. You're going to get a call from a user, staff member, whoever they are. For example, Stacy Smith is our example. They may call you for issues. So in this scenario, we have created this Win10 task, staff machine. So we wanted to see how much can we do with the Active Directory. I already joined it to a domain, this right here. So of course you guys already saw that from my first video, so I'm not going to go through that. And it's already joined to the domain now. So we have a staff machine ready for anyone that is going to join our company, and you're the help desk. So let's do an example here. So the example is that we got a HR email in the email or ticketing system. This is a system that we check for, let's say, issues or anything, right? Or request. So the HR say we have a new user starting. Her name is Monica Kuku, and she is a sales manager, and she's going to be sitting in Office 3, and she will report to someone in this Active Directory. So we'll find that out. So how do we do this? How do we add Monica now to this system? All right, that's the first thing. Monica Kuku is what we want to add. So let's go ahead and open Active Directory here, and we're going to basically create Monica now. So if you're a beginner at this time, don't think about advanced stuff. Just know the basics, because that's what you're going to do, the basics, right? If somebody asks you in an interview, a lot of people expect you, do you know the extreme basics? So if, let's say, we have an organizational unit, sales, and Monica started as a sales manager, and we need to add her in sales A, then this is an organizational unit, and a lot of companies will have something like this structured, right? Many companies don't just use users like this. If someone do, that's good for them, but a lot of people, they use a structure. So how did they create this? OU first, you right click, you go to new, and you create organizational unit. So I can create anything over here. I can create sales, I can create marketing, I can create whatever I want. So if, let's say, for example, I create IT, I can create an IT OU. So of course, inside this OU, I can create more OUs, right? So this is for management purposes. A lot of companies may be very large. So if they're too large, they may have something like this. They may be so large that they may have multiple domains like this. But for now, let's stick to one. Let's say you got hired by a company that have 300 users. They may have something like this, right? Sales, and then split like sales A group, sales B group, blah, 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 if it's more structured. Now, everybody have different way to do this. Now, who's going to do this, by the way? Who makes this call of structure and this design? This is never going to be a help desk, right? If you got a point like that where you have to do this stuff, then think of yourself, You got a one-man IT job and you are everything in that company. So title doesn't matter anything in that company then. But normally, if you tell me who is the person who's going to be doing this stuff, this is going to be your systems administrator, systems engineers, or IT managers, or whoever who is going to be designing your server and domain and that sort of stuff, like DHCP, DNS. Whoever is going to be managing that sort of skills or services, that person will be working on this. So usually in a company, this is already done, and when you get hired in the company, you already have everything set up like this. So this is why it gets super confusing for a new person. They get in, they never know how things were created, but in our project, you have to create everything from scratch. So let's say we want to add Monica to Sales A. So there are multiple ways you can add Monica to Sales A. Number one is right click on this OU, click on New, and click on User. So you see the box just opened up, so you can type Monica, her name, and the username. So the username, who gets to decide that again? This is going to be the same people who will create a naming convention. So when they create this Active Directory structure, a lot of people in the beginning, they create a naming convention. So next time it doesn't become a problem. So if they create a bad naming convention, if Monica with the same last name came to this company and they never thought about that, then they're gonna have issues. So a lot of people use first 3 letters, last 3 letters, and date of birth. Some people use first initial, last initial, and then 1, 2, 3 Monica. So of course, a lot of people have different ways to deal with this. We're not going into that right now. So you can add Monica like this. And then of course, Monica username, as I mentioned, is going to be another naming convention. Similarly, when you type a username here, it's going to show up here. So that's one way. Right click, new, user. Another way is in this white space, you right click, new, and user. Another way, and probably a quick way, would be to click on this little icon, and that's it, right? So of course there are other ways too, like PowerShell. But if you're a beginner, I wouldn't even touch PowerShell at this point because it's too much for you. So yeah, you can go to the command line and you can simply open PowerShell by searching. Let's go ahead and open a search, and you can just type PowerShell like that, and then open PowerShell, and usually you'll open it as an admin. And of course you can type new and dash, and then you just type add. Like if you do like something like this and you hit a tab, it's gonna give you that full list, but of course we don't want that one. So if you type user, it says user right there, and space, and you just put name like that and whatever name you want to add. So if I want to add Monica, you see without clicking, I can just type something like that and it's gonna go out and add Monica. Boom, just add it, right? But of course, this is why I said, if you're a brand new person, look, the next thing you're going to be thinking, okay, what about Monica's password? What about her title information? All of that stuff. So this is where things are going to get complex with PowerShell. So it's not that easy for you as a beginner to just jump into this stuff and start doing this stuff. So my recommendation is, if you have not done the GUI part, which is the most important one, that's what you're going to get a job for, or somebody's going to be expecting that level of skills, not this. You go and they say, can you add a Monica? And you say, yeah, new add / dash add a user in PowerShell. Well, I didn't ask you about PowerShell. I asked you about just basics. So you see, try to make it very simple for people, because they're going to hire you just like that. So if I go to users now, Monica should show up. If I do refresh, and we can find Monica right here. Because we didn't give it anything, it just disabled it automatically. If we have to do a full username and password, we have to create a full PowerShell script for it, and that would do everything for us. But we don't want to do that, right? So I showed you 3 easy way. New, click here, click on top right here, which is the easy. And another way is right click in the white space and click new and then user. So okay, let's go ahead and click add Monica. Cuckoo is the last name. And now, like I said, you can add a user like M and Cuckoo. So that's going to be her, username in our company. You click next, and this is where another things will start. And like I said, it's all about information, right? You need to learn what this company is using and how they're doing things. So they may say you need to use a temporary password. And this company may have a rule of setting up a temporary password. They may be having a rule of giving each person a random password, and then they have to send them an email, or they may have a paper, or they may just go to their desk, or they may call people. Whatever that is, that's up to their security policies, and they will take care of that. So here we are going to add Monica with a temporary password. And in most cases, you're going to check this box because you don't want to give one password and then rely on Monica. You never want to rely on a user over here. Your user will never change their password, right? So user cannot change their password. You can never expire. Of course, these things we don't do it right now. So we just stick to the basics. User must change their password the first log on. You have seen this in many scenarios where you have a brand new product or tool or device and you just open it up. The first time it's going to get a default password and it's going to prompt you. It's too dangerous to use this basic password. Please change it, right? So here we're forcing you. We're not giving you an option. So we're going to click finish. So Monica Cuckoo just got added into our system. She's a part of our, our company. Because we went ahead and we created a Windows 10 machine for her. Now I don't need to go through that because I already showed you how to create a Windows 11 machine before this, and I have tons of videos about Windows 10 on YouTube and websites and everything, so there's no way we're going to do that. So we have already done that part, created a machine and created it on system right here. So let's go to Windows 10 desktop. So you see, because when we manage machines, this already is talking to the domain right now. So this is the power of managed computers in the business, and it's not like a home users anymore where you have to go to each computer and try to put passwords and all that kind of stuff. So now it's being managed. We can simply go to that machine or tell Monica, please Monica, go ahead and log in with your account. What's my account? Mr. Helpdesk. Okay, it's M Cuckoo. And your password is this, right? We give the temporary password. All right, Monica, the user password must be changed before signing in. Remember, you did that. You did that part right here. You asked this user to change the password. So we're going to click on OK. And Monica got the old password in there. And now Monica needs to put a new password here. Okay, so Monica went ahead and started changing the password. She changed the password and then that's it. She logged into the system and now she is a part of this company. This is how simple it is to create a user in Active Directory, the normal and the easy and the accepted way for people to know that you know about Active Directory at the very basic level. Okay, now there are a few questions that will arise from here, and this is where I basically talk about. So let's say she stopped on that screen where she was changing the password and then she asked you, or maybe she logged in and somehow something clicked and she asked you, hey, so help us, what is the password policy so then I remember it for future? Or maybe she's stuck changing that password and she can't do it because she's putting a very basic password into that field. So how do you troubleshoot that? Now here's what I always tell our members or the people who are taking programs or whoever is watching this video is to think proactive, right? So one thing, you're being reactive right now. So you're on the phone, think about it. You're on the phone, the tension is there. If you're new, of course, things are a little hard because you're brand new to this stuff. And on top of that, this person is asking you a question related to information now. So doing this type of practice just makes your job, makes your life easy in IT, okay? Think about this very simple question again. What is the password policy? So for next time I remember it, or the person is stuck, the tension is created. Hey man, I'm trying my password, but it's not working. What is the password policy? You see, or this could be any user. It could be an old users too. I mean, they do this all the time, by the way. So now you're in a situation where you need information. So few things I'm going to show you very quickly. If you are on your own machine, you're not in front, you're not physically in front of that machine and you don't know it, right? Like maybe you don't know this stuff. So this is how you basically learn this stuff. When we create a domain controller Active Directory, automatically there is a policy, basically a policy got created and implemented on this domain system. So what do I mean by this? I'm going to show you this quickly, very quickly. If you guys go and open your group policy, let's say for example if you type group policy in your machine, now here's the thing. You may come over here and you're like, whoa, this says edit group policy. Is this the one that you're talking about? Let's go ahead and try it. So when you open your machine group policy, there you go. So one, you have this group policy available right there, right? So this is your local machine policy. Now, since this machine is added to a domain, let's find out if this can help you out with this scenario. So if I basically go to Windows settings, and if I go to security settings, and if I go to account policies, there is a password policy. There you go. So one way is this. If your group policy management tool is not installed on the help desk, most likely it won't be. Why? Because this is a very powerful, I mean, giving you Active Directory is one thing because you're going to do reset passwords and all that kind of stuff. But giving you a group policy is like giving you keys to everything that you can mess up, right? So of course, a lot of people don't do that because you, as a level 1 person or entry level person, they really don't need to go into that to change things unless there's a requirement. Like I said, if someone do, they're just giving you more advanced skills, which is fine, no problem, but it comes with risks, so people don't do that most of the time. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this. When you go to a domain controller, let's pull up our domain controller here for a second, and let's log in as a systems administrator, right? So I'm just system administrator now, trying to show you how things are working. You saw that 7 days, 7 characters, and all that kind of stuff. Where is this coming from? This is coming from when we created an Active Directory. This is why it's so powerful, because we can manage now a very detailed stuff, very tiny stuff in the domain, right? So this is Active Directory stuff. This is where you manage account, users, groups, all that kind of sort of stuff. But in group policy, let's go ahead and open that from server manager. So if you're doing your practice, you're going to go to your Windows administrative tools. You can open it from here too. You can open a server manager, click on tools, and you can open it from there too. So what I'm talking about is this group policy management, right? So when we created this domain controller, with that, we actually created a domain policy with that. So let's go ahead and open the group policy management. Just like Active Directory, it's another thing that we are talking about right now. So we need to check the default domain policy, not the domain controller. So let's go ahead and open that. If you look at this right now, and you want to quickly find out the similarities between where this is coming from, your help desk policies, like where are these coming from, let's go ahead and check settings. So when you click on settings, it's going to generate a report. You can close this, and if you scroll down, look at this, all of this information is coming from here. So if you have access to the domain controller, then great. If you have access, just like you install group policy on this machine, you can go back to the options and you can now install group policy tool on this machine, and you're going to see that if you have access. So 2 ways, like I said, you can do it that way, you can do it that way. Now if somebody wants to change this, they will come to edit. Now of course, this is outside of the scope of this skills. You can come and play around with these policies by clicking here, Windows, going to security, and that's where you basically have that policy. So if you double click on these policies right here, this is where it's coming from. So I can change the password for the lockout and things like that. So let's say, for example, an administrator tomorrow or somebody's testing you that because maybe it is a little bit of help desk, like how do you update a group policy on a local computer, or sorry, on a staff computer? This is actually a common interview question, by the way. So if I want to say I want to create a lockout policy, and this is a new policy that I'm creating, I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to double click on lockouts, and I'm going to define the policy, and let's say 30 minutes is fine. It's giving me 5 invalid automatically. I can change that. So you see, if I try this for 5 times wrong password, it's going to lock me out, right? We're going to do this demonstration now in a second. But as you can see, at this point, this machine don't have that 5 or lockout policy in there. So if I click on it, see it says 0. So what do you do with this? How do you fix that? Or how do you, in the interview, they may show you something like this. and say, can you update it to what the server have? So what they're asking is that you need to know a command, basically. So if you open a command, and always open it as admin, I just clicked on it, but you can right click and open it as admin. So the command to update a policy on a machines, if you're doing it manually like this, one way is this way, and one way is when you restart the computer, you can always do log off, log on. So some policy may apply, may not, but restarting is the best way. So if I do gp update / force, if I do this, look at this, what does it say? It says updating group policy, right? Group policy, sorry. So it's going to say computer policy, user policy, right? It's going to go out there, it's going to grab new policy and put it on this machine. So for this, we will wait a second, and then we are going to go ahead and open this again, this editor. Or without opening, maybe we can refresh it. Is there a refresh? There's no refresh. Okay, so maybe we can reopen this again to make sure that we are getting right results. So here we are waiting for that policy to get updated. I don't know why it's taking a little longer though. Now do keep in mind that I'm using a Windows 11 that we have somehow, you know, messed up with the registry and then made it work. So this may not be a great operating system in my lab to perform some of these tasks like this, because something may not be working because we're just using a non-supported version, you know, on ESXi. Though that's just a little tip here. If you're thinking why it's taking, this shouldn't take this long, by the way. So let's go ahead and see if it's implemented and just stuck in there. Edit group policy, and of course we can do restart if this doesn't work. Let's go ahead and do policies, password policy. Oh, there you go. So it's already there. I mean, I don't know why it's stuck. We can actually leave that like that, but it's there, right? It's there. The policy got applied on this machine. So this is just one example of how powerful group policy is, right? You can deploy printers, you can deploy applications, you can restrict things, you can even put add-ons in browser these days, right? So it's so powerful that for this type of skills, a lot of people pay a lot of money if you become that type of person who's going to be doing a lot of work in a very large environments. And if you have this type of learning and skills, of course, it makes your capability to the next level because you can do a lot of different things. So this is one way you can find. Okay, now let's say you don't have this capability yet. Like you're more of a command line person. You want to do something a little more quicker, or maybe you're on this machine as well and you don't want to open, because if you do edit policy on this one, I believe it's going to ask you for username and password. So let's say you don't want to do this route. You want to do a command line route now. So there's two ways. Of course, I always recommend people to get used to more PowerShell if you can later on. But even if for this basics, you can just learn this. This is more memory, right? So one thing you can do is to just type get, and when you type get add default, so as soon as you get to def, do the tab. So when you hit the tab, it's going to write it down clearly, nicely for you, and you hit enter, and it's going to go out and it's going to grab that policy for you. So lockout, hey Monica, lockout is five characters is 7. This is what she's going to be looking for, right? It's complex. You need to use a complex password, right? And then you can tell her this, hey, you know, it's going to be 7 characters. So now she's thinking about her password, right? And it gives you some information right here. Now, if you are more of, let's say you're a person who have more like, you know, domains in your environment, then of course you can take this to a next level after this by writing a domain in there. If you have multiple domains, you can definitely do that. So I mean, there's pretty more advanced ways to do things simply by, you know, typing this. Let's say you want to do this like the domain one. So for domains we use identity. So if you type something like this, you don't want to type everything, because my fingers are like that. I never write things correctly. So if I type something like that, dash identity, and if I want to type a domain, I'm just going to type the domain, because if I have multiple domains, maybe the policies might be different, right? So all you have to do is a dcdh dot job skill, and remember my job skill share is messed up, so I'm going to write down like this. If I type this like this, I know my domain is messed up, right? So I remember I did a mistake. It's hs like that, right? Now in your domain, of course, you're gonna have to make sure you use don't use mine. It's not gonna work. But that's where you go. If you have multiple domains, then you're gonna type different domains in here, and you can find out. Because what if you have you're a help desk of 3,000 people, and they have different domains, and you have this access, right? You're the admin, but you don't want to be now searching around people, and you can clearly just go to the command line like that, and in a few seconds do it without using GUI. So I'm just showing you another skill, the power of command line, where it makes the IT professional's job very easy, and it takes your skills to a little different level because you're doing things very fast. Another way of finding out would be a pretty old way, but classic way, is actually using a just normal CMD command line, right? And for that, you have to use the net user account, and that's a very simple account that we use all the time. So if I already showed you the who am I, but let me make it a little bigger here. So if I want to do a net user account, all I got to do is net user, and then you're going to type the username. So who's our user? Monica. Type the username like this, mkuku, and then / domain. What this account does, it gives you a little more information now, right? It gives you the full name, it gives you the active, is it not active, when does it expire, expiration date, account expiration date, password expiration date. Oh, it's another good question. They can ask you, when will my password expire? Actually, that's a good one, because some people do ask this question. When they go out of the country, they go to different places, they may ask you this question. So again, information, right? We don't want to get stuck in information, and it gives you a little more information, by the way, and that's why I love the CMD. Still, CMD is super powerful, even though I tell people to learn PowerShell because that's just for future skills. But for everything else, basics, man, CMD is gonna save you a lot of time. So now that you know how to tackle that question with information, let's go back to the Active Directory and do more of basics of Active Directory where you may come across. So another basic that I usually tell a lot of people is, of course, searching. So searching can be done multiple ways, but what I love to do is I actually click on this little button right here, search, and then of course whoever you want to search. But most of the time we are so quick. When you're new, I always tell people to wait and look at what you have on the screen. And this tip is for anything. It could be an error, it could be a process, it could be learning something new. Please wait a little bit, because if I try to search, let's say Monica, so yes, I do find it, but what if there was a different Monica? What if I wanted to find different Monica, right? So I am in sales right now. If I'm so quick, this means I'm not getting results. So I need to make sure I do entire directory if I really want to find Monica all over, different Monicas. You see, I have 2 Monicas now. So it's very simple thing. I know for some people are like, oh, man, come on, is that even something you want to share? Well, yes, because a lot of us, we're so quick to do things, we forget. And most of the time when error comes up like that, we just close the error and then start troubleshooting based on what we have learned from A+ type of learning, or somebody taught us from this video. Yeah, Danish taught me 5 steps, and then I'm just going to use those 5 steps. You close a whole error. The error clearly says you're missing something, right? And it has nothing to do with Danish then. It has nothing to do with A+. It has something to do with you closing your error quickly. So simply, if I want to find out our computer, if I am in an interview with you right now, and I'm going to give you like 60 seconds to find a computer name, Win 10, and you do this, and you're like thinking, it's not there. I did an entire directory, and that's where you're gonna look at this. Oh, you know what is this file? Computer. Okay, I got it. There you go. Win 10. Boom. I just find Win 10. So So most of the time when it comes to basics of IT is always looking at the screen and what this application is built for, because the application is definitely going to help you out with most of the basics. So I love using the search feature, and then from the search feature you can go and do things right from there, right? If you have to delete, add to the group, disable, or when you do the same process, if you right click on the user, it's going to give you the same information. So that's another thing that we do teach in Active Directory, and you practice. So here is another question that a lot of people will come across. If you're a brand new person and let's say you're getting a lot of calls about adding people, so you add Monica and you add, let's say, 10 different groups to Monica, and there's a lot of work that is being repetitively done. How do you get away from the repetitiveness and not going to extreme advanced? Because that's not this video is about. So the best way you can do is to create one template account, add all the groups and do everything with it, and then right click on that one template account and do copy. So when I add a new account on top of this one, so whatever groups or anything that I have added to this account is going to get copied over to the next one. So that's how you do a very quick copying, right? If you want to add a user to a different OU, you can drag and drop, but sometimes you need to make sure that if there's a domain policies being implemented, you may have to know about that. That's a little more advanced. Okay, you can right click and you can move from here as well. You can have a call that we just fired Monica, go ahead and disable her. This could be just a simple call, ticket, disabled, boom, disabled. Okay. We hired Monica again. We made a mistake by firing her. She's coming back from the door. You go back and enable her again. Sorry, Monica, I was too quick. Sorry about that. Gotta take care of security. You can go to the properties and learn more of here, because if you come over here, yes, you may see something more over here, but sometimes you may get a little more technical with Active Directory, by the way. Even that you're entry level, you're working on the basics, but sometimes you may get into more technical stuff. And this is something that maybe a team already have some solutions, or they may have some fixes, and for that reason they use advanced features in Active Directory by clicking on view, and then when you click on advanced features, it's going to add more stuff in here, right? So of course it depends on the company, how advanced features they give you access to and all that kind of stuff. So let's say, for example, you're working with Monica right now. If I click on Monica one more time, right click, and now if I go to properties, you see there's more tabs, right? So you have this attribute editor, which is something that you didn't see before. There's some other things going on as well. There's some new stuff going on, password replications. If you click on the the attribute editor, this is where you are gonna sometimes work on things. Okay, you may find some of the information right from the editor again. So if you come over here, you see last log on. Remember, you guys ran that command and it was pulling some information. So some of the information is already in here. Password last set. So this gives you a lot more information from this GUI as well. But you can also add things to it. So sometimes we have to do a special email address or domain needs to be added, some sort of that kind of stuff. Maybe ID or employee ID is not matching and you need to add it right here. So again, you can come over here and play around with it in your lab environment, but don't try to mess with this in a real environment, because you can definitely mess up things if you come over here for a user and you just let me just add things right here. I'm gonna put a domain value in here. So just do this when you know you can handle things and you understand things. Another thing that I love about this is that it basically, sometimes when you're working on this, and let's say for example this is not working, and let's say I have 5,000 users and one user called me, Monica again, and she's calling me and I'm like, you know what, I just searched Monica out of 5,000 people, which OU is she a part of, right? So if I click on Monica right now and I go to properties, you see the problem with this one, I don't see that value, that object value, right? Now, one way would be a command line, like again, but that's like you're going advanced now, right? You're going and so okay, I can go to Google and find a command for that, but you went advanced, which is good, fine, you can learn that. But what about Active Directory? Can you find it from here? So if someone say who is Monica part of, like a group? Yeah, it's easy to say member of. You're gonna find out. We're gonna do that in a second. But okay, that's not helping me right now. So I'm gonna go back and click on View, Advanced Features, and I'm gonna find Monica again. Now again, there's not one way of doing it. It's just that I find this way a little bit easier to learn things. So if I right click, I go to Properties again because I turned on Advanced Features. So what happened? Object. And look at this. It tells me exactly where Monica's rely now. So then now I know when was she created, all that kind of stuff, but I can also know where is she now. It's so easy to find information in AD once you get a hold of it. Okay. So another question would be a very common, ticket would be we need to add, because there's so many Monicas now in sales or Monicas or people, and we don't want to do this one by one thing. We need to implement something on a group level. Then of course you have to create a group. Similarly, like a user, you just right click and then you click on group. So this is where a learning will come to you, and you really need to go and then do a documentation learning, Active Directory learning, a little bit more learning now after this. What is a domain? What is a global? What is a universal? A lot of people use global. Some people use universal. Is it a security group? Is it a distribution group? I want you to do your research and find out. This is all boring stuff. So go ahead and do that. And let's do a sales group now. When you do group, there you go, sales group got added. So if I have multiple people and I want to add Monica to the group, I can do it right click, add to the group, or I can go to the properties of the group and I can go to the member and I can add Monica to the group, right? Just like that. And that's a very common ticket, and you're gonna get this all the time. We got a new person added into our company, and that person needs to be in sales and marketing, IT, blah blah blah. You're gonna get this every time, and you're gonna click on apply and OK. So now if you go to the group and you say members, you have Monica right there. Okay. And again, this is something, like I said, you're gonna get a ticket to add people and you're gonna get a ticket to remove people. Very simple stuff. You can put a group a part of another group, like a nested, right? Main group, another group, another group. And managed by, you can put a person in here. Again, attribute editor, if you have an advanced feature on right now, you're going to see that. And if I go to the Monica and I go to the groups now, you can see I can check which groups is this person a part of. So groups, again, is very important. We use it for many reasons. Outlook, sending emails, blah blah blah. And that's just an on-premises Active Directory kind of stuff. There's a similar type of skills that is being used in Office 365. So in most of the companies, when you do something like this on Active Directory, it gets synced automatically to the cloud, Office 365. In some companies, if they don't have Active Directory, they do the same stuff, but it's just more newer, brand new stuff, or cloud type of stuff. They also have exactly the same skills, but it's just more web page GUI, more GUI-ish, more modern, But this is what we use still now, 2022, heavily being used. Okay. So this is it for Active Directory. This is the basics. I feel like if you cover all of the things that I have covered and you go to the interview, no one can say that you don't know the basics of Active Directory. This is what they expect from you. They don't expect from you to recover, replicate domains, blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff. They just want to know, can you create a user? Can you reset their password? Can you unlock them? Do you know the password policy? Do you know the basics? Can you tell me the command? Can you search a user? Can you add a user to a group? Can you remove a user from a group? Can you find a user? Well, that's it. There's really not more to it. If somebody wants to go more than that, then that's their own thing. They want to hire somebody a little bit more skillful, right? If you want to become more skillful, then go ahead and do the practice, because without practice, none of my video will make sense. It's just gonna fly by. So practice, go find commands, get more technical with it, try to create your own tickets now. And that's where you're going to become real Active Directory IT support expert at some point. But after that, you go and move to Active Directory management. You work on a forest, domains, and everything like that to become a sysadmin. Thank you so much. I'll see you in a different video.